let's shift our focus from the future of our industry to one of the biggest conversations happening today. Please welcome Sumera Riaz, VP of Cybersecurity, and Trevor Burnside, Solution Architect, for today's presentation. Sumera and Trevor, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thanks. Thanks, Cass. Hi, everybody. Hope you guys had a great 4th weekend. Fireworks were amazing this year. I was in Frisco, Texas, and we had a whole drone show and then fireworks. It was absolutely amazing. Trevor, how was your 4th?
It was great.
Yeah.
A lot less fireworks this year. There's a lot of fires going on in Utah, but
Oh,
still great nonetheless. But yeah,
awesome.
great to be back on the hit call.
Yeah, same here. Um, Chandler, can I drive there we go. Here we are. All right, guys, today we're going to talk about the blast radius, the opportunity hiding inside your client's expanding risk. In the next 30 minutes, you're going to leave with questions that are going to open security conversations and grow your book of business. Don't worry, I know it's called Blast Radius. It is not a doom session. We're going to have lots of fun today. The session is about helping your clients find gaps before they find them the hard way, right? So my name is Sumera Riaz, VP of Security. My sidecar today is Trevor Burnside, our amazing security architect. And we're going to dive right into slide 1. Let's see if I can do that. Here we are. All right, guys. So our objective today is identify clients whose attack surface has grown faster than their security program, and that open a conversation about exposure before an incident forces it. That's it. That is the whole session. Everything else from here is just evidence. Your clients, they didn't do anything wrong. They grew their business. They added tools. They moved fast. The security program just, they didn't get the memo. So that is where our opportunity is, because the solutions today are scaling a lot faster than security for them is. So that's where we're finding gaps and helping clients build a better security posture so they can protect what they've worked so hard to build. So every tool, every AI tool that's added into an environment, every cloud instance and edge device, it expands the risk. And a lot of times, CISOs or security leaders don't really realize it because they have a perception of their environment, but it's not really the reality. For example, you guys know I have a 12-year-old son, Ethan, and when he was 4, we took him, first day of preschool. Now, Ethan has been in the school 5 times before. We walked through the class, met everybody. First day of school shouldn't be that hard, but we get there. We go through the front door. There's a sweet little receptionist lady sitting there, and she gets up to give him a hug, but she's super pregnant. And I'm an older mom, so he's not really seen a lot of pregnant ladies or, had a lot of time with babies because most of my friends, their kids are older, out of the house. So this is the first time he's actually seeing a pregnant lady. So she comes out and she wants to give him a hug, but she's super pregnant and he's just looking at her and I'm like, oh man, this is not going to end well. And she goes, and she's like, she's very sweet. She goes, oh, honey, it's okay. There's a baby in here. And Ethan screams, clings to me, and then runs for the door screaming, everybody get out! She eats babies! And yeah, the kids were, yeah, it was a mess. It took him a week to it took me a week to get him back in and, that whole thing. But oh man, anytime I think of perception versus reality, like that is kind of that picture of that day just keeps popping back in my head. And that is exactly kind of where your clients are today. They have a perception of their environment today, but it's not really the reality. They don't have the context. And it's because you can't secure what you can't see, right? What do you think, Trev, on perception versus?
Yeah. Yeah, this reflects a lot of what we're talking about with clients. And I've been talking lately, with CISOs, IT directors, you name it, right? We have these conversations every week, multiple times a week about if I'm adding, our organization is expanding so fast into different technologies, into AI, and they're trying to adopt these different things
Mhm.
that it's faster than I can see the risk and mitigate the risk and know what's going on. So sometimes they'll bring up, I just don't have visibility into this anymore. I can't see my
Mhm.
network traffic anymore. I don't know what's going to, if I bring this in, it's going to be a black box that I can't see, right? So that
Exactly.
visibility is a big deal, and um, sometimes people, especially when you're talking to clients and decision makers, they'll just say they have a lack of visibility rather than explaining their whole
Mhm.
problem set. And so that's really where we get involved is, okay, let's break that down and see where we can help, rather than it just be something that they feel like they don't have, any way to fix or change, right? That's an area that we
Exactly.
can certainly help.
Yeah, and I mean the stats prove it, right? So this is recently from Proofpoint and then the Voice of CISO's 2025. Again, 2025 numbers are just coming in. It takes a few months for them to the people who run the stats, the analysts, they take all the data from last year, and then during the first H1 of the next year, that's when you'll see the updated stats come out. And I thought this was so interesting that from 2025, 58% of CISOs feel unprepared to respond to a cyber attack. And because in today's day and age with AI expanding and cloud going to the edge, it's become pretty interesting battleground that we haven't seen before. And 76% of them believe that it's likely that they're going to get an attack in the next 12 months. These numbers haven't been this high before. And that's what kind of caught my eye. Like 5 years ago, these numbers were very low. They were in the 20s or 30s, right? And now we're seeing a spike in these numbers, which is very indicative of the market where it's heading. So very interesting. And the good side of this is they have you guys, you advisors in their environments already to help them, right? Because that's the big thing right there. You're already selling them a voice solution. You're already selling them network, already selling them cloud. It's just the next right thing to say, hey, I know we're adding toolings, we're adding new services into your environment. How do you plan to secure it? What does that plan look like? And throughout this session today, throughout the next 25 minutes today, we're going to dive into some discovery questions, just keeping it real. How do you open these conversations and prep you for your next client calls?
And something I'd say, just real
Mhm.
quick, before we're going to get into some technical stuff, but really when we're, looking at those statistics, some of the things to consider, I was actually talking to a CISO yesterday and started a call in the morning. We said, hey, how's it going? He said, it's Monday morning and I work in cybersecurity. How do you think, my day's going, right? Like it's a stressful field.
Yeah,
And, when
100%.
we're selling security, we're not selling email, security. We're not selling MDR. We're not of course, those are technical things that we have within our tool belt, but what we're selling is confidence in their security posture, waking
Mhm.
up, not feeling dread that they're going to work because they work in cybersecurity. That's really what we're trying to help people with, is these business conversations that the technical controls can help with, but really what we're offering is confidence in their security posture. And I think if we focus on that, that's where we really can be a trusted advisor.
100%. And that's, having sat on the other side of the table, your amygdala is hijacked. You're in fight or flight mode every single day. You're checking your phones at night, making sure, everything is on the up and up. It's you're helping, like, to your point, Trevor, is so true. You're actually helping the person and help their environment at macro level. So yeah, there are email security solutions, there's all these solutions, but we want you to we want you to help your clients take a breath, like pull them out of the mess they're in, help them to see the bigger picture because that's where good decisions are made, right? So blast radius is very simple. It's borrowed, the word is borrowed from basically physics, right? When something detonates, damage doesn't stay at the point of impact, it travels. In security, how far it travels depends on what the attacker can reach from the first entry point. Think of it like a gas leak in a building, right? The leak itself is not the disaster. What matters is how far the gas travels before somebody lights the match. Nobody panics about the leak, they panic about the match. See where I'm going with it? It's really not the leak, it's what can that leak cause. That's the blast radius. So the blast radius, basically, we're going to look at three different aspects of it. What is the depth of it. Depth basically means is for the blast radius, how far can a bad guy go if they're in an environment? One credential to admin level access to everything. It's like a very bad elevator ride, right? We went to Disney a couple of weeks ago with Ethan, and that if you guys have ever been to that, there's this elevator. What's that called? The House of Terror or something. It's an elevator and it
Hmm.
just drops. It's, it's like a person who's claustrophobic is their worst nightmare. So this is kind of like that, how far and deep it can go. And very bad elevator ride. Breath. How many systems kind of going wide? How many systems get touched with an attacker in the environment? One breach that becomes many. It's a lot like telling one person a secret in the channel. That's it. That's the breath. How far is it gonna go? It's endless. It's gonna go far. And then the duration. How long before somebody notices? Every day of dwell time. So when attackers in an environment undetected, it's called dwell time. They're dwelling in that environment. So every day of dwell time multiplies the damage. The average attacker is inside a network for over 200 days before even detection begins. And that is not just a breach. That is, Trevor, that's like a long-term relationship nobody agreed to, right?
Hmm. Yep. One thing I like to think of, and this is an oversimplification, but I explain it from like a layman's term, right? Of like when you think about risk or blast radius, it's like what's the worst case scenario? Like what's if this tool or something were to happen in the system and it can compromise other things, what is the worst case scenario that that can do, right? What does it have
Mhm.
access to? And then what's the worst thing that could come from that system? I see this on LinkedIn all the time, actually, of like agentic AI risk, right? Of like you connect it to a database and then that agent decides to do some simplification and it deletes the database. That could be the
Mhm.
worst case scenario that you have, right? So then you work backwards and think about the mitigations. Well, can you back up that data? Could you back up the database? Of course you could. Could you do it in a
Right?
place that the AI doesn't have access to? Yes. So we'll get into that a little bit as far as mitigation, things like that. But that's kind of one layman term to think of it. Again, a little bit of an oversimplification, but a way to think of what a blast radius is.
Yep, exactly. So, oops, I want to go back one. Let's see if I can do that. Chandler, can you help me go back a slide? There we are. Thank you. So, why did the blast radius grow? We just define what it means. It's kind of where, how far an attack can spread is basically your blast radius. But why did it grow in reality? Why the business grew faster than the security program did, right? That's basically why it grew. My favorite saying I've been saying recently is the laws of our land have not caught up with innovation of man, which is, it's been true in the last 20 years in security that we've seen. What do you think, Trev?
No, absolutely true. And it's going faster and faster. And I think that's one of the things that's unique right now when it comes
Mhm.
to you looking at the risk and the blast radius of, it's not just adding, one or two things. It's, especially when you're looking at agentic AI, that you're connecting multiple systems and also very, you're in some cases the crown jewels of the business, right? You're the data that
Mhm.
business is generating, creating, and then connecting AI to it. Sometimes people say, well, I don't have the visibility. I can't quantify the risk, or it's too complex to even quantify. And
Yeah.
I've had those conversations where business leaders think the risk is too complex to even quantify that I can't do anything about it. And then they get into analysis paralysis of I've got to do these things. I know I have to keep up with the market, but I can't
Mhm.
quantify my risks. So if I can't do that, then I can't move. And then it ends up being this kind of vicious cycle of the
Not doing
board saying we
anything.
got to do this, security can't
Mhm.
approve it, and no one's really going anywhere. So and that's really where we can inject.
Yeah, and that's so true. 100% true. And so here with the AI risk, think about Copilot, ChatGPT, every shadow AI tool your clients' employees adopted without the IT team knowing about it, right? These tools are connected today to email, to CRM, to internal documents. It's kind of like hiring a new employee, giving them all the access to everything and skipping the background check entirely. Nobody thought that was a problem until it was, right? So it's that AI governance and security measures around this is so critical. What do you think about the cloud risk, Trev?
When you look at, well, from cloud risk historically, right, where when everyone just kind of jumped to the cloud and security was an afterthought,
Hmm.
I think we're looking at AI differently in the sense that we've learned a little bit from that cloud jump that there is risk to that,
Hmm.
and the AI side is not necessarily going the same way, where everyone's going to AI and then thinking about security as an afterthought. The larger organizations are seriously putting security as a barrier to entry into some of these things, which is again an area that we can help. On the cloud side, though, there's some differences when it comes to enabling, because we have the cloud's been going on for over, a long time now. We have security controls built in that can help on AI adoption. Whereas if you're doing it yourself, on-prem, things like that, there's still some things that we need to work out. Again, I don't want to get too technical there, but if for organizations that are already in the cloud and have addressed their cloud security, there's some simpler ways that we can start building AI that can also address the security controls in place.
Awesome. There's a great question in the chat is what solutions does Solaris has for all the risks that we're talking about? There are, so kind of a teaser going into it. Susanna later is going to share, do a hub demo for us. You can get it through Hub or email one of us. We have great security solutions providers within our portfolio that can provide coverage for all the risks that we're talking about today. So there are tooling, there's security as a service, there's so many solutions that exist now that can actually help a CISO and a security team have a stronger program. So lots there. Sally, to responding to your question there, and log into the Hub demo, email one of us. We'd love to get you introduced to some of the providers who can help your clients out.
Yeah, we are consistently adding new suppliers, specifically in the AI risk category, to address certain things, because there's not one solution that's going to be a good fit for every customer. Customers, based on size, scope, where they're deployed, what they're doing, their industry that they're in. There's so many variables, and we have really tried to address that market and bring in a lot of vendors that can do
Hmm.
very specific things, whether that's, hey, I just want a platform because I'm a very mature organization. I can
Yep.
handle this. I just need to manage the platform. We can do a platform. We can do
Hmm.
professional services where someone can parachute in and identify the risks, give a report, and let that organization mitigate those risks. We can also do, full migration into a compliant environment to be able to take advantage of certain things. Again, just depends on the appetite of the organization, what they're willing to do, what they
Hmm.
can do. But we have solutions really across the entire spectrum at this point, and they get added literally weekly at this point. We're adding solutions to this kind of portfolio to address it.
100%. And then I love David's question in there. Is this why the move to edge computing? The devices that are built without security, right? The edge devices. So what happened is when cloud came on the scene about 15 years ago, I think it was around that time, 15, 16 years ago, when cloud came on, it launched into the world. We were used to having a centralized location for our infrastructure. We had data centers, we had servers in a closet, we had, in the basement, we had servers, we had server rooms. So it went from on-prem, and you could throw a firewall around it. We had DMZs. We went from that on-prem into cloud where we can't see our perimeter. It became invisible. So we took our cloud compute and we took our compute, put it in cloud. It's still centralized. So centralized on-prem, it's centralized in cloud. And then a shift happened into edge devices where we took the cloud compute and now we've moved it to the edge in many different devices like phones, like MRI machines, warehouse scanners, a building thermostat. It's all sitting on the same network as the core business, and none of these devices can have CrowdStrike or Defender deployed on them because it's too heavy of an endpoint agent. right? So you can't really deploy, they can't run these endpoint agents. So that device then itself becomes a risk, and it's running on pretty much the same, it's running on the same network, the primary, as the core of the business is. So what security folks do is we we put layers around it, right? So defense in depth, we layer it out. We have SASE, we deploy on the network. We deploy zero trust access, identity, better identity access management. So we try to hedge against that one risk. But again, it can go so far wide and deep. If you just miss one thing, it's kind of, you're opening yourself up to an attack at that point. That's why this edge compute is becoming more of an issue than, almost every call I'm on with clients. That's one of the things that they are talking about is how do we protect our environment from all these IoT, OT devices that we have today? So very good question there, David. And again, we do have suppliers within our portfolio that help manage that risk. Anything you'd like to add there, Trev, on the devices?
Yeah, I would just say, kind of to the point that we're talking about these businesses' needs are growing faster than the security program. A lot of times I've been talking to customers that say we just redid our identity access management,
Hmm.
process. We're happy with it now, but now we're adding AI agents into the mix, and a lot of these identity access management processes, workflows, tool sets are built around humans and anticipating human action rather than these agents. So sometimes they're just getting through adopting something and already, things are changing because of the business needs. So, um, in all of these areas that we're talking about, AI risk, cloud risk,
Hmm.
IoT, OT environments, everything's really up for grabs at this point. And if you're not asking these questions with your customers and clients even if you like, oh, they've got Okta, they're good. Well, they may not be good. They may have the business might be moving in a different direction and they may need to adapt and change.
Hmm.
I think sometimes I see too often that we make assumptions that hey, they just did this, or that they just got a CISO, or now they've got a security analyst on staff now as a full-time employee. They're good, right? And that's not necessarily the case.
Yep. And Thomas has a good point in there. With FDE, could you verify their own security? FDE is basically full disk encryption. It protects data at rest. Unfortunately, it doesn't do much to verify the security controls that are working against an active threat, but it's one of the layers that is used in order to kind of, bolster your posture against an attack. So good point, Thomas. So blast radius and action. There are three clients. So these are real examples that we've seen in the last month that we wanted to bring to life today. Three gaps but one pattern throughout the whole thing, right? So the first one, Trev, I'll give a high overview on this, and I know you and I have worked on all three of these examples
Hmm.
together, so I think this is so timely. So the first one was a regional bank, right? 400 employees with Copilot and no data governance policy. Um, it's, I mean, I make light of it, but attacker basically came in wearing a visitor badge that said trusted employee, and nobody stopped them because nothing looked wrong. Deploying Copilot without guardrails, can gets companies in trouble all the time. So, Trevor, I'm gonna let you expound on that opportunity, and then let's talk about the blast radius at that point.
Yeah. So Microsoft comes with some native tool sets, right, that can help with some of these things. Microsoft Purview, the E5 licensing includes a lot of these certain things, but they're not fire and forget. They're not just set up and it works and it's not necessarily easy. Now these things can be done, and so a lot of people are paying for the things, but they don't. You'd be surprised the amount of people that we talk to that say, we're all in on E5. And I say, okay, where are you at in Purview? Well, we've started it, we've dabbled. There's also certainly amount that are consistently using Purview, but it's an area that if I'm an advisor, I would always be asking about because we do have options specifically around the Microsoft ecosystem. Lots and lots of options around Microsoft ecosystem that can help customers with their posture, with enabling the tool sets that they've already made an investment in. And this is certainly the case of that. They were looking at Copilot, they're looking to do it in a compliant manner. And we have to look at, okay, is the way you have it set up, are your controls compliant to what you have to be held to, especially as a bank, right? They are held to certain compliance requirements. And just because you're buying Microsoft doesn't mean you're automatically compliant. You have to make sure that it's set up that way.
Yep, 100%. I'm going to pause right there. Kenneth Fryer has a great questions. How do we go back to customers that have already sold AI services and now talk to them about security without scaring them out of using AI? What a great question, Kenneth. Top of mind for everybody, I'm sure. AI isn't scary, right? AI is a great tool. It's the people who are managing the AI that can sometimes be not so good. Those are like our threat attacks, the attackers that come into the environment. So very good point. Um, I usually lead with not fear, not doubt, not uncertainty when it comes to technology. Technology is simply a way from getting to from point A to point B faster. Back in the day, everybody walked everywhere. Then the wheel was created, a wheel where people got to where they wanted to go faster with a horse buggy carriage. Then we had cars. It's just that's what technology is. It's simply getting from point A to point B faster than we did yesterday. If you look at it that way, yes, you've sold them AI tooling, you've sold them AI solutions, which is amazing. Because you've done that, you have earned the right to ask for that security business, to have that security conversation, to say, hey, I was reading an article that that Sumera wrote, a blog that she wrote about the risks that AI can bring. It does a lot of good things, and then we just got to manage what it could bring in a possible risk into your environment, and just go through that. And again, if you guys need help, call one of us. We'll happy to jump on a client call with y'all and walk through that together. I hope that answers that question, Kenneth. Scenario B. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say every solution within technology, when you look at CX, contact center, network, whatever it is, there is a security consideration flip side of that conversation, right? And even if you've already sold AI and you haven't addressed the security side, there's certainly a conversation to be had that says, hey, I know you guys are forward thinking and how you're advancing. I'd love to be part of that security conversation and make sure that, if you guys have concerns or um, that that you're addressing your security risk as well. And we have solutions for that. It could be a really easy, light conversation to get into the door. It doesn't have to disparage what you've already sold. It could just be complementary to it. And I would frame it that way. I know it's probably easier said than done, depends on what you sold, but happy to help there too.
Yeah, 100%. So scenario B, the logistics company, right? It's that was it 8 SaaS applications that they have that their IT team did not manage. And it wasn't a technology problem, it was it was a process, right? Nobody told IT problem, that's what it was. And yet finance had deployed 8 different SaaS apps that we're using. It's a very common problem we see, right, Trev?
hmm Yeah, absolutely. A lot of what we're access or the problems right now is from like, hey, what applications are you actually connected to? And so when I get involved, it's very technical on the actual getting into the blast radius of, okay, this application does this and it has access to this. What is the implications of that? And that's what a CISO is going to be concerned with. That's what an IT director and decision makers are going to be concerned with. Of if I connect my Claude Cowork to HubSpot or to Salesforce or to whatever, what are the implications? And that's where we help on hey, if there's an issue here. And actually, I'd say something that comes up quite a bit. This isn't this scenario, but hey, I'm using this application and it just came out with an AI tool inside its thing. If I connect it, what's my visibility or what's the blast radius of using this third party application's AI with my data set? And that's somewhere we can help. And that's a conversation I'm having weekly.
Yeah, 100%. And then the manufacturing company, 300 connected devices on the same network, segmented as corporate IT. It's a flat network and it's one hop from a domain controller. It's, that's just a common thing we're seeing, right? Explain the blast radius on that one, Trev.
Yeah, a flat network is, we run into this all the time. I can guarantee you all are working with customers that have a flat network somewhere. It's
Mhm.
very, very common. Um, Network segmentation is one of the first things they should be doing. You're getting into all these, crazy stuff with you lately, of, hey, we've got to do this. We got to, not zero trust, not crazy, but we got to do the most advanced thing, and yet sometimes people still have a flat network, and they really should be
Mhm.
addressing some of the smallest stuff. On the blast radius there, if I'm a bad guy and I get into the network and it's flat, I can see everybody. I can send out a message, essentially, and see all of the different devices, systems, and I have access to those. That's a bad day, right? We want to make sure that they're
Mhm.
segmented and people only have access to the things that they need. And if I get into that network, I can't send out essentially a message and find all the other devices on the network.
Yep. There's a great question in chat as well from Isaac. Is can you can you route the IoT devices and all the edge devices through firewalls? Isn't that a good security solution? Yes, it is. And said, aren't all internet local services passed through a router firewall and access to a local network? Yes, we do. The issue that you're absolutely 100%. Yes, you can route it through the firewall. The problem where it exists is encrypted traffic, right? So a firewall can't inspect what it cannot see. If it's got encryption, command, or control traffic from a compromised device, it bypasses that policy, gets in, unless the SSL inspection is deployed, which an endpoint cannot be deployed, an endpoint agent can be deployed on that device, unfortunately. So that's where the risk comes in. A legitimate looking traffic, a compromised device communicating on an allowed port and protocol looks normal and the firewall lets it through. And that's where, we deploy OT specific anomaly tools like Nozomi, Dragos. They can add value on top of the firewall. So those are the defense in depth layers, which you can also find on our cybersecurity landing page, where on the defense in depth, well, how layers come together, and that hopefully that will expound on that. And then also, if you reach out to me directly, we can put a call together, and I can kind of walk you through the back end of it. All right, so our give me 1 second here. Let's go back to our questions, the discovery questions. There we are. So this is kind of where we want to land at. These are the questions to ask your clients on your next 5 calls. Awesome questions. Some of these are, some of the favorite ones. Trevor and I use these almost in every calls nowadays. So question 1 is, Mr. Client, when did you last map employee access controls to data and tooling in your environment, including AI tools and cloud applications your business units adopted without IT? That is a great question because one, um, it's surfacing ungoverned access across AI and cloud, right? It's not a hard question, but most clients will not know the answer because they don't know, and that's where you're going to find the opportunity. Question 2, Trevor, you want to take that one?
Yeah. If one employee credential was compromised today, what is the furthest point in your environment an attacker reaches before you detect it?
Mhm.
So that's a good indication, right? Of okay,
Mhm.
of a scenario. If I'm, where you can place your customer, where they have to start thinking, okay, what do I got in place? I've got email security. I've got this. I've got this. I've got this. If one of those credentials is compromised, how long is it going to take, or what could they do until I know about it? And it should be immediate, right? We should know, hey, when credentials compromised so that we can remove access, host isolate, whatever you want
Mhm.
to do. But it's going to put your customer in a position to think, okay, if I don't ever know about that, that's a problem,
Mhm.
right? And then you've
Exactly.
shown them they have a problem.
Yes. And my all-time favorite question is the last one. If your environment looks differently today than it did 18 months ago, how has your security program kept pace with that change? That's the one. That's the client who looks at the ceiling at this point when you ask this question, or who start listing things that they haven't done yet. That's the opportunity right there. So I would love to know from you guys, which one of these three is your favorite? Which one of these three are you going to try out this week? Throw it up in chat, and I'd love to hear your feedback. And I'm getting the eyes from Cassandra is, come on, lady, move along. So we're
Never.
gonna.
I always love listening to you both. You guys have such a wonderful outlook when it comes to cybersecurity in a way that it makes it a lot more digestible than some other folks that we've seen talk about before. So I mean, from chat, you can see there's a lot of folks that are absolutely going to be using all of these this week. Eduardo, he's absolutely on it.
I know number 3 is my winner. Like that's the one I use a lot. And that question right there, it's doing a lot of work in the background in the client minds. All you have to do is ask that question and just sit there. Just be silent and let your client do all the talking. And here's just an opener that you can use as you open conversations. For you guys, if you wanted kind of a cheat sheet, we work with clients to understand where their exposure has grown before an incident, not after. Given what you have added in your environment in the last 18 months, this is a conversation worth having, right? It works because it's not fear-based. It's forward-looking. It creates urgency through relevance. To Kenneth's point earlier, we're not wanting to scare anybody. We want them to have the warm and fuzzies to keep coming back to us. And it opens the door to, at the very least, an assessment conversation, and hopefully going all the way to creating a good security posture through MRR for them. So that's our wrap up for today, guys. Can't wait to see you guys in another 4 weeks.
Well, again, thank you guys so much for being on the call. And also to all of the advisors, remember, you don't have to navigate those conversations alone. Whether it's cybersecurity, compliance, risk management, or even AI, you can always utilize the solution engineering team to help. And of course, don't forget, if you would like to see like real world examples of our engineers helping, you can always check out Inside the Win case studies and our podcast for how, Sumera and Trevor have obviously helped a lot of our TAs in the past. In fact, if you're actually looking to reinforce what you've learned today to kind of strengthen your cybersecurity conversation even further, I'm going to go ahead and post in chat. Be sure to check out our cybersecurity sales and our cybersecurity product and tech courses in Telarus University. There's a lot of information in there, especially if you aren't familiar, but you want to get more familiar. Those are the courses and the learning paths that you'll want to take.